example. Again, these are the physical cards that I've made. These are not digital, so I'm going to try to recreate this as close as possible digitally in Procreate. You could also do it in Photoshop, but specifically, I'm going to be using Procreate because I have it easily on my iPad and it is an app that's more geared towards drawing. So I feel like it will be easier to try to achieve this effect using Procreate versus Photoshop. Canvas, I just did the screen size. Oops. You can do whatever size you want. If you are actually planning to maybe make this a card and print it or something, standard cards, the ones I've been doing are 6 inches by 4.5. But I think also like kind of just a standard lettered size is 7 inches by 5 inches. But just for demonstration purposes, I did screen size. I want to try to get the same watercolor effect. So I got my new layer. So actually, let me do the process that I would do in real life. So in real life, I take a piece of washi tape or artist tape and put it in the middle. I'll do that in color just so that you guys can see it while I'm creating the little ornaments. So I'll just do a black one. So I'm gonna change my brush. I'm gonna go to inking, whatever, just kind of standard straight line. I always gravitate towards the studio pen. But so I'm just gonna approximate the middle of the card. And I do want to make a perfect straight line. So I'm gonna hold down my brush or my Apple Pencil or stylus and just draw a straight line. And I can see that it is a little bit high. So I'm gonna make this, and I do want to make this line a little thicker. So I'm just gonna grab the selection tool. Oopsies. And then I'm also going to move it down slightly. Okay, that, again, I'm just eyeballing it. You can measure it out, but I'm happy with this. So this black line is just a filler. It's acting as our washi tape, as if we were using real life watercolor paint. So I'm just going to lock this layer. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you do it to the side and then click lock because I don't want to accidentally mess it up or anything. Same thing in Photoshop. If you don't want to, once you create a layer, you don't want to touch it or do anything different by accident or something, you can always lock it. So I'm just going to keep that there so it won't move or anything. So now I'm going to start on my actual ornaments. So I'm going to go back and change my brush to the watercolor brush. I am going to experiment. I actually have not done this digitally, so we're all first timers here. I'm going to start with the watercolor brush. If I'm not happy with how the circle comes out with the strokes, then I'm going to change my brush and redo it. So let's just see how this looks. So whoopsies, got my watercolor. I'm gonna go back to my kind of deep red color. And I'm gonna end up making 4 ornaments with varying like how low or high they are, but using this black line as like my baseline. So let me just see. Okay, that's a little thick for what I want. So I'm gonna make my brush size thinner. I'm gonna do it even slightly. Okay. And again, you can always play around with the size. I'm happy with that one. So now I just want to make a perfect circle. So I'm going to do this. Well, here we go. Okay. I kind of like it. I did it a little bit too. Oh, and I do want this. Sorry. So actually, I want this tape. Tape guideline at the top because technically in real life it's supposed to block the watercolor and the paint, so I do want it to be at the very top layer so that it's not overlapping. And by the end, actually, I am just going to change the color of this tape layer to white instead of having to actually erase any of the ornaments. You'll see what I'm talking about in a sec. So in real life, I would be using like I have a little jar. You could use a glass or something to create a perfect circle with watercolor that you just paint the paint on top of and then stamp it on here. And then in real life, you would use the residual um, watercolor, like the leftover watercolor, and pull it to fill in the rest of the ornament. But I'm going to try to create that effect with my watercolor brush. So I am just going to add another layer in case I want to redo something so that I don't mess up the outline that I did. Oh, and actually, sorry, I'm gonna pull this over slightly to leave a little bit of some breathing room on the left. All right, so let's hope for the best. So the watercolor brush, actually, I'm gonna make it larger now. Okay, and this one is pressure sensitive. So if I press harder, you can see I have more pigment versus if I press really light on my screen, it's a lot lighter. So I'm going to start out by just kind of shading it lightly. And I always like putting a little highlight, you know, to give the effect of maybe some light on, okay, actually, let me redo that. But, okay. Sorry, lots of, okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna try building up the color, do a loose little, what is it, highlight on the ornament. So let me just kind of fill this in. And like I was mentioning, when I do this actually by hand, physically painting it, I do, oh, right. What I was trying to say is I have these shimmery watercolor paints. I'm sure you could achieve that effect on here with a particular type of brush and playing with the settings and whatnot. But unfortunately, I don't have access to that at the moment. So these are not going to be shimmery. Or if you actually had this physically printed, there are so many different things out there, settings that you could get for actually to have it, a shimmer layer printed on it. And I'm actually going to add a layer mask to this. Yep, mask. And then because I want to pull some of the color away from the center because I feel like it's a little bit flat. So I want to choose black because black takes away when you use a layer mask. Why can't I? Okay, there we go. So I'm just gonna lightly just do circular movements, eyeballing the center of this just to, again, get that gradient effect. You can already see kind of adds a little bit more dimension to the ornament. Like if there was a light source on there. And I might just make this a little bit smaller and try to pull some of the color to get that highlight. There we go. All right, so I don't want the highlight to be like a perfect stroke free, again, because you know watercolor is a little unpredictable, so we want to try to make it look as watercolor-esque as possible. So if it isn't perfect, that is actually the look we are going for, but I do want to have at least a little bit slight stroke of perfect white. So I'm just going to do the same thing 3 other times. So now I'm going to do another layer again under my tape layer. I'm just going to, I don't know, I'm going to pull like a blue color. The cool thing about doing this digitally is there's no bleeding because watercolors, just inherently, if you put too much water, it can easily cause the paint to bleed. So if you mix like opposite colors, it can come out bad. I've had a few batches when I was playing around with colors and like when I tried to mix like a yellow gold with blue, it just kind of bled over and it looked really sloppy. So you will not have that issue if you're doing this digitally. So let me make sure I'm on the right layer. Gonna make sure my brush size is, make it a little bit smaller. I think I did 3%. Okay. So now I'm actually going to do it well, no, I guess because I can just move them around. So I'm going to make this one a little higher because I want to vary the lengths that the ornaments are going down. So let me, I'm actually just going to pause the recording and, or no, I'll do this one and then pause the recording, make the other two, just so we're not sitting here for hours. So again, oops, did not mean to be in the eraser. So perfect circle. That is not a perfect circle. I can do better. Okay. Well, nope, I want to redo that. Okay, as perfect of a circle as we are going to get this moment in time. Yeah, that's, well, sorry, I'm being perfectionist over here. I don't want it uniform. I want to make it a little bit smaller, slightly larger. Okay, there we go. So I got my outline there. I'm gonna create my other layer. Oops. Well, I'll just use that. And now I do want to fill this in like I did before. I made my brush slightly larger. I am using very light pressure to build up the color. Want to just kind of make that little highlight area. And I am very quickly just trying to fill this in with color for time's sake, but you can take more time. You can see that the brush strokes aren't perfect by any means. But the more time you take and you play with the brush strokes, you'll be able to get an effect that you are going for. So let me get a layer mask on this. We're not, okay, so just mask. I want to have black because I want to take away some of the color. So again, I'm just gonna kind of start in the middle and try to create that gradient effect. Because if you think of real ornaments, since they're round, the light hits them. So usually in like the center, wherever the light source is coming from, it looks a lot brighter and just kind of gradually gets darker on the edges. So again, that is the effect I am trying to go for here, this little highlight area. I'm happy with that. So let me pause the recording real quick, make my two other ornaments, and then we will reconvene. All right, you can use whatever colors you want, as I was saying, but I have my 4 ornaments here. I realize the sizes aren't quite the same, but you can, since it's digitally, you can always go back to the layer and resize it or position it or however you want versus doing this in person, physically with watercolor. Once you stamp it on there, it's there. And if you want to redo something, you have to start again. So, so once I have the basic ornament shapes, now I'm going to make the little top thing. You'll see what I'm talking about. I'm going to put this over the tape layer. It doesn't really matter because this is not going to interfere with the tape at all. Usually I would use like a little gold or silver acrylic paint pen or something where you could just use a Sharpie, whatever, but I like kind of like the sparkly, shimmery look as we were going for, or as I like going for the holidays. So I'm just going to pull a color as close to gold slash, or yeah, I'm going to go for gold. You can try silver if you want. You could add texture and whatnot, but again, just for, actually, I'm going to do it gray because that will be easier to act like silver because I don't really want the yellow in here. So I'm just going to put kind of a little gray, bluish color, pretend it's sparkly. I have a new layer here and I'm going to change my brush now to, I mean, I guess you could pull something that's more textured, but I'm just going to pull my studio pen and fill it just with flat color. Okay, yep. So you could individually, I guess I will individually draw each one on the ornaments, or you could just draw one and then keep duplicating the layer 3 times if you want them to be all the same. But I do want this to have a handmade kind of realistic effect, as you could tell with the coloring. So I am going to individually draw each one so that they're each slightly different. Okay, let me make my brush smaller. Sorry about that. Okay. All right, so So you can see, obviously, this is not perfect, but I do want that hand-drawn effect. So I'm doing the draw shape, fill it in method, which is really cool that you can use on Procreate. If any of you do use Procreate, I'm sure you're aware of that. So again, I'm just eyeballing it as if I'm using like a marker or something to draw the tops of the ornaments, and then filling in the color. And I am doing this all in one layer. You know, to be safe if you want to do it each on a separate layer, but I'm just, you know, for time's sake doing this. And yes, as you can see, they are not perfect, but that gives the handmade human authenticity. So now I am going to do this on a second layer. Ornaments have to be hanging somewhere, so I'm going to draw the little metal thing that usually the string or something is attached to, and I'm just going to do this in black. Simple. I want it to be very thin. Just going to do, actually, okay, I'm going to make it a little bit thicker. 2%. Okay, actually, I'm going to go for 3%. There we go. Just do a little, oops, little top thing. You can use the regular, well, actually, I will just do, I do want to have a perfectly straight line. This one, I don't want to look hand done. So there we go, where you click, drag, and pull it up. So it looks like our little ornaments are hanging from somewhere. Actually, I'm going to redo that one because that is not centered. There we go. Just two more. There's a lot of different variations that I have seen out there that you can do with ornaments, or whether you're painting or whatnot. I just kind of like this style. So we are done with our ornaments. So now, as I was saying before, with the tape layer, I'm going to change the color of it to white so that it looks like as if we peeled off the tape physically, if we were painting this, and then you can write whatever, I mean, or you don't even have to do this. I just like it. And then writing happy holidays. I think it's cute. Just depends on personal preference. So I want to unlock this layer, and then I'm going to pull white. Now, okay, I'll do alpha lock. Means if I add anything to this, it can only, oh no, I do not want to erase it. So when you turn on alpha lock, it locks the whole layer. So you can see I have white, so I am technically coloring over the black with white, but it is only coloring it in that, in the actual black outline that I created. So there we go. So the alpha lock, that's what we'll do for the washi tape one if the color fill doesn't want to work. So there we have it. I'm gonna do my little writing like I usually do. I usually use one of my black micron pens, but I'm gonna do black here. The technical pen, just to get that kind of, I feel like that gives me the closest effect to my micron pens. And then I'm going to, nope, I want it even slightly thicker. Okay, actually, no, I want it a little bit smaller. I'm just going to put happy holidays. I kind of like the cursive stretched out effect for the writing for these. But again, totally up to your personal preference. It could be really cool if you had like a calligraphy, happy holiday. Sorry, have to think about how to spell for a second. Happy holidays. There we go. But you could get really cool, if you're into lettering and stuff, you could get really cool brushes like calligraphy brushes or script brushes, presets or whatnot in Photoshop or in Procreate or whatever program you're using. Personally, I like how the handwriting comes out better when I do it with my actual pen, because my physical pen is not as sensitive. It comes out a little bit more rounder than this, but experimenting and playing around with it. So this is our finished holiday card. You could have a different colored background. I'm just doing white because, again, I'm trying to replicate the real watercolor consistency. I guess I could even add like a very light texture to make it look slightly more like watercolor paper. But there's a lot of cool things that you could do, but here's just a basic one. If you don't want to physically send somebody something, you want to save on stamps, you could send this picture to them as a holiday card or something, or any celebration that you're going for. So, and then, you, as always, you would want to go to the little screwdriver thing, share, and then save it as a JPEG or PNG and send it to whoever. Or just keep it as an exercise or something to reference. Actually, also, if you like physically making these with watercolor or whatnot, this would be a good way to kind of experiment with what colors you think works and whatnot as kind of a image reference. So you could create it digitally and then try to replicate it physically after you played with it. So that's a good planning tool as well.